So this was a job I looked at a couple of weeks ago, and I just popped my head in, looked up, and see it was a little ceiling repair. I said, "Yep, no problem. I'll come and do that." Thinking it would be just to cut out a bit of plasterboard and patch it in and skim the patch. But on closer inspection, you can see now that the skim had just disappeared from the substrate, which I think was a bit of a mixture of lava and plaster and plasterboard. So suddenly it turned into a different job really. That would teach me for just poking my head in and not really having a look. You know what it's like sometimes, you're on your own from work, you just put your head in, you can't be bothered to get your ladders or your steps off the van. And you just have a quick guess, yeah, that'll be that. And anyway, so I soon realised on in closer inspection that this ceiling's probably all loose and I'm going to need to probably take it all down, which I started doing. You start scraping and you start picking about and it starts coming down, and then you've got to make a decision really. You've got to just sort of say to yourself, well, do you know what, it's all got to come off because I'm not going to chance skimming over any of this lot. And you can see it had quite a leak previously, and it's obviously done a bit of damage. But I've got to go back and paint this ceiling at the end of the week. So there's no way I wanted to be chance painting stuff that may want to come down and then having to patch that in. So you just make a decision and go for it really, and just start to scrape it all off. And then I found, obviously there's a reason for that, and on again a closer inspection, it's been skimmed over an old load of distemper, I think really. Whoever skimmed it before has probably got away with it. It's probably just been held on by the fact that it's a very narrow ceiling and the sides are sort of bonded to the walls really, and it's sort of let that skin sit across and tighten up, and it's never really shown any signs of falling until that leak had come through. But leak, it did come through indeed, and it ended up being my problem then. So you can see me now just having a dig and a scrape and not really wanting to give up on it. You sometimes get to a point where you can sort of not be scraping as hard as you want to because you're thinking, oh, that's good there, yeah, that'll stay there. I'll just put a bit of scrim across and tighten that up and then skim to it. But experience will tell you, just do it, just take it all off. It's not worth pissing about with once you've started with it. You know in your heart of hearts that the right thing to do is just keep scraping and scraping and getting all the way back to good again really, which is what I did. So I shall just shut up and let you sort of watch the end of that really. Nothing really interesting to see, but for anyone that's not done this sort of thing before or might come across it, it's worth a watch just to let you see, the extent that you will have to go to if ever you come across this sort of situation. If it wants to come off, take it off. You'll know. Don't try and convince yourself that it's pretty solid. I think it'll be okay. Don't even think that. Just get it off. If you're hitting it a few times with a scraper and it's showing signs of falling off, then it needs to come off really. So not often really I get caught out with distemper. I mean, I've been plastering. I learnt plastering in the late 80s, 87, 88. And over the years, really, I've probably dealt with distemper, like been caught out like this, maybe less than 10 times, I would imagine, really. Usually if a ceiling is that bad and it's a bad one, it'll either come down or it might be overboarded, which is not something I like doing, really. I'm not a fan of overboarding ceilings, purely for the fact that you don't know what's underneath them. You can tap out your old ceiling and show your joists and put your pencil lines down and start screwing your new boards up, but you have no idea if there's a pipe there or a cable there. You just don't know what people have done before. So I never suggest to a customer to overboard unless the ceiling's coming down, really, to be honest. It's not something I ever want to do. So when I do find myself in these situations with distemper, I'll just generally use the right stuff, really. Here's me not looking to happy that I've got to go and get my ladders out of the van. And do you know what? I must have had like a sixth sense this morning. I'd never carry these ladders on the van, but just this morning I thought I'll put them on just in case, because you never know. It's a high ceiling and I might need them, and thank God I did, really, because here I am using them. So always handy to have on the van. These are quite nice. These are really, I don't think they're not like normal size ladders. They're small double ladders and they just fit in the van nice. And they also sort of get up and down the staircase easy with them. You're not sort of scratching and hitting anything as you do it. So here's me just going up there just to carry on scraping, really. A little bit more scraping. Again, not the most interesting thing to watch, but just shows you that you have to do it. There is no tricks to this. Just take it down. Then here I am brushing my hand across it, just always double checking if there's a distemper there, and you'll know if it's distemper because it will just be a chalky powder dust that comes off on your fingers, and nothing's going to stick to that, really. I wouldn't chance putting anything else on it but the correct stuff, to be honest, which is the stabilising solution, which I will get out of the van in a minute. I'll go and get that out of the van and I'll show you a picture of that. And it's one made by Santex, and it's the only one I've ever used, and it's always been fine with me. I've never had a problem with it. It's very watery. When you're painting it on, you feel like you're probably just feels like water. It feels like you're thinking to yourself, what is this going to do? But obviously it binds the chalkiness of the substrate. Maybe something like Peel Stop would do the same. I'm not sure. I wouldn't recommend it, but Peel Stop does that sort of thing again. It binds substrates and glues it all together. But yeah, the Santex stuff has always been good. I've never had a problem with it. And I did stick about 3 coats over this lot. I'm not sure if you're meant to stick 3 coats on, but I just like to sort of go for it, really, and stick a load on. And it's quick drying stuff, so you can sort of put it on, go and have a cup of tea, and then come back and start as from fresh. Then you put your PVA on. Don't rely on the stabilising solution to act as a PVA or an SBR, because it's not designed for that. So you will still need to put your 2 coats of PVA or a coat of SBR on top before you start plastering. And it's fine for that. You know, after half an hour it will soaked in and it will be dry, and you can just start from a level playing field again, as if it was just a whole new fresh job. And it's well worth it, really. I mean, it looks like I'm doing a lot of work here, but I got in this job this morning at 8:30, and I was walking out the door by 12:30, ceiling all skimmed and finished. So it doesn't take long, really. It would have taken longer to probably attempt to do a patch, really. You might as well just do the whole lot. Here I am, nearly finished scraping. I did let this video sort of go on a bit long with the scraping, but like I say, worth watching. If you haven't done it before, you'll just see what we have to do. So here I am, having a good clear up, most important, because that stuff will just fall off, and every time you step on it you're crunching it into some smaller bits. So here's the stuff. Here's a Santex quick drying stabilising solution. Just pick it up from Wix or anywhere else like that, I suppose. I've used it for years. Always keep a tub on, because this is the reason why. Last thing you really want to be doing is getting to this job, then having to go and find a builder's merchant that sells this. So for the sake of 25 quid, keep a tub on, and you don't need to use a lot of it. That tub's been on there, I don't know, might have been on there a year or 2, I think. You barely use it, really, and like I say, it's so thin, you just don't get through it. It just seems to last forever. So here I am, just putting it on, just brushing around the edge, just like you would a PVA or an SBR. You just do exactly the same with it, really. Brush your edges in and give it a roll, fill it all in. And I think I did do this 3 times. I didn't want a chance having to come back here and patching it up again. They're new customers of mine, nice young couple, So, you know, I don't want to be having no callbacks. Don't want callbacks from anyone, but especially not new customers. Make yourself look like a right winkle, don't you? So yeah, I've just speeded up this this bit, just showing you what it goes on like. It looks very watery. You feel as if you're not really achieving anything because it just soaks in. But it does do the job. As you'll see in a minute, you do the brush test with your finger. Once it's all dry, you rub your fingers across it, and you'll soon know if it's not worked. It will just come off like a skin, and you'll be left with a powdery substrate again. So you'll instantly know if this is any good or not. And I've never had a problem with it. You know, if you do it right, you shouldn't have a problem. There shouldn't really be a need to overboard. I looked at a job a few years ago, and another plasterer had been in, and they'd had distemper, and the people said, I said to them, no, you don't need to overboard it, I'll just put some stuff on it. But the other plasterer had convinced them so much that they needed to overboard the ceiling. They were looking at me like I was sort of telling lies or trying to con them. And I said, look, you're welcome to have it overboarded, but you don't need to go to that expense. I'll put some stuff on it, and it will hold back. And they sort of ummed and ahed and said, oh, you know, the other plasterer said you can't stop that from... I said, look, I don't know the other plasterer, but I know what I do. Anyway, I convinced them they didn't need to overboard, and they went with me, and ceiling came out fine. And to this day, I'm sure it's just as good as when I left it. So I always think overboarding is a last solution, really. I don't really want to be doing it, and I don't really want to be causing the customer to pay out more than they need to, really. It's aggro for me because I work on my own. I don't really want to be screwing balls up to the ceiling. So, nearly done with this stabilising solution. That's it, tip it back into the pot, because like I say, you barely use any of it. And now it's just time for some skimming. I've put some tape around the top of the walls because the walls are not being decorated. And like I say, I was only ever here to do a little patch in the middle of the ceiling, so I put some tape around it, and then I put some of that drape cling film stuff around with the other tape on it as well. It went down the walls sort of 2 foot, just to stop any splashes. And you can see me testing it now, rubbing my fingers across it. I've got no powder coming back on me, none of the stuff is coming off. PVA is all good, which is there. And I'm going to PVA it now. Sorry, this video is just dragging out a little bit, but I did just want to show you the whole process, really, just so you can see the timings. And here we go, good old bit of PVA. Been using SBR a lot lately. I've gone back to PVA. I think I've sort of got roped into this whole SBR is better sort of scenario that a lot of people are saying. And it is good, it's great stuff, SBR, but PVA is just an easier product to use, really. I find SBR drips way too much. So there I'm testing it with my finger on the PVA now, and it's stuck. That's good. There's nothing coming off from my finger.
Time to go to work.
What are we waiting for? Let's do it.
And now, ladies and gentlemen,
People get ready.
The robots are coming.
Don't believe anything you hear.
Stay calm, kiss your mom, ban the bomb, do the best you can. Remember, God loves you, man. Or be cracked, be saved, yet well behaved.
So there we go, 2 coats all on, and that held lovely. I would have known by now if that stuff had failed. You'd sort of know almost instantly, really. Your plaster would start pulling away. But that was all good, 2 coats on, and there you can see, all polished up, ready for decorating, everything tidied up, hoovered, swept. Customer was very happy with how quick it was done as well. And I shall be back there to paint in the week, and I may even film that.